Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum class. Welcome to English grade 11. How are you? I hope that you're doing well. I'm your instructor Zia Hamid. Let's start our English grade 11 lesson today. Students, this is an introductory lecture. We have covered our lecture number 3 thoroughly with all those different learning outcomes. You can revisit them. If you have missed any lecture, you can watch that on YouTube. Now, for unit 4, we have this introductory lecture today so that you are aware of all these coming students' learning outcomes so that you can prepare for them before you attend the lecture. You can learn it and absorb it better. Let's go through each and every learning outcome in this unit. We have divided it into different competencies: grammar and vocabulary, reading and critical thinking. Then we have our oral communication, and finally we have writing competency. So as we are going through these different lectures, we can see that we are learning every aspect of the English language, whether it's about oral communication, writing, reading, and also if we are talking about doing all these 4 different kinds of things. So let's move on to lecture number 1A. You can scan these lectures from the book as well. For lecture 1A, we have to consult general and specialized reference materials. For example, dictionaries, glossaries, or thesaurus. And why are we going to consult these reference materials? You can find these in the print form and also in the digital form. We need to find the pronunciation of a word or determine or clarify its meaning, its part of speech, or its etymology. So if you are looking for a word and you want different information about it, different pieces of information about that word, like how do you say the word, what does it mean, does it have different meanings, synonyms, antonyms, does it have an origin, or what we call etymology. So that's why we consult our dictionaries or thesauruses. A dictionary gives you a lot of information, including examples, the classification of that word, pronunciation, and all those things. And a thesaurus gives you synonyms and antonyms of that word. So you can access them both in the hard form, you can buy it, or you can have the access in the digital form, including different websites and different applications. We are going to see all these things, how we can find them, and they will help us in our understanding of English language. Then we have our lecture number 1B. Lecture 1 is divided into different parts. We change tense in indirect or direct speech, present, past, and perfect tenses, future, models, modal verbs, time, and questions, orders, requests, suggestions, and advice. All these in narrative paragraphs. When we are writing narrative paragraphs, whether they are fictional or non-fictional, we need to follow some rules. And how can we change tense from direct to indirect or indirect to direct? We are going to follow all these things in the parentheses. This will be a very interesting lecture. So what you want to do before you attend the lecture is that you need to go through and revise or recall all the previously learned things and concepts. So use your prior knowledge and try to give it some time before you attend the lecture. We are going to talk about indirect and direct speech. Now, moving on to the next lecture, lecture number 2. Again, it is divided into different parts. We will learn these SLOs in different lectures. For lecture 2A, first thing that we have to do is read. And when we are reading, we have to read with accurate pronunciation, appropriate pitch, and voice variations suitable for fictional and non-fictional text. We are talking about the major categories and genres, and we will read it. And as a good reader, we must know that how we can pronounce a word, what is the right pronunciation, what is the right standard English convention in reading. So if you want to read out aloud without any problem, then this lecture will be very much important. Ask, then we have this second learning outcome merged into this lecture 2A. We have ask and answer higher order questions to guide or assess reading. These questions, they look like this. Why is the author saying this right now? Students, we have, when we are talking about reading and reading comprehension, after reading something, we need to answer and respond to the text in the form of different questions. We have to answer them, but these questions can be categorized in two ways. They are lower order questions or higher order questions. Lower order thinking skills and higher order thinking skills, we call them lots and HOTS. These are different questions. Lower order questions are very basic. They require not very long or complicated answer. Rather, they require you to answer in affirmative or negative. And the higher order thinking skills, higher order thinking questions are questions that you need to understand by breaking them down into different keywords, different parts, so that you can answer them. So these critical thinking questions are very much important, that first you understand them, break them down, and then you answer them correctly. We will talk about all these different questions, and we will see that why did the author choose this word in the text? What was the reason of choosing that specific word, and how is this different from what I learned somewhere else? So we will cover all these three learning outcomes in lecture number 2A. And the next lecture, we will talk about evaluate how authors use language, including figurative language, considering the impact on the reader. Yes. When we are talking about language, especially in text or especially in poetic texts, in poems, we see that authors have used different techniques, devices, literary techniques, and elements in them. We will learn what they are, what is figurative language, what is it made up of, and how we can understand them and then analyze the different kind of texts. Then we will also talk about identifying rhyme scheme and figurative language in poems. Finding out rhyme scheme is very important question, and also saying some words or giving your answer, your analytical answer on the language used in the poems are also very much important. So those figures of speech will be discussed thoroughly, and we will analyze them using different classroom activities. Yes, we have our lecture number 3A, where we will be talking about providing an objective summary of a range of texts, including fiction, non-fiction, and other types of text. Summary skills are very much important, students. This tells us about understanding of when we are reading something. Here we will talk about writing an objective summary, which is free of any opinions, and it will be objective. We will see that how we can write a summary, how we can understand it, so that we can write them better in the writing competency. Lecture number 3B, where we will talk about reading to analyze descriptive or argumentative or persuasive essays. Now we know that essays are of different kinds. There are different kinds of text. So how can we analyze our descriptive or argumentative essays? What are the techniques and how we can differentiate them in order to grade the essays? Secondly, we will talk about examining an author's point of view or purpose in a text. The narrative perspective, the point of view that the writer chose or the poet in prose or poetry respectfully, we will see that what are these point of views and how many are they, and how we can differentiate between these different points of views, and what is the purpose of the author in writing the text. What was the intention? What is he trying or she trying to say? And the last learning outcome of this lecture 3B, we will talk about critiquing how the author distinguishes his or her position from that of others. So, critical analysis is very much important. We will see that how an author is achieving a position, what is he talking about, what is the intention, how it is different from other opinions and other things as well. So all these learning outcomes are catering to your reading comprehension so that you become good readers and answer all these relevant questions that are asked after reading. Then again, we will talk about reading in lecture 3C, where we will apply skimming and scanning strategies. These are reading strategies that we will learn for what? For relevant information, to find information in a large text, main points in text, to identify the writer's purpose and intended audience. Identifying audience and the purpose of a writer is very much important when you are analyzing any poem or when you are analyzing any kind of prose. So we will learn about that, and we will also see that what is scanning, what is skimming when we are reading something. So there are different reading purposes as well. So this lecture will be very interesting and it will ultimately make you a very good reader as well. Next, we will have the learning outcome merged with it. Interpret and integrate information from a variety of sources for comprehension. Now, when we are talking about comprehension, we don't always have text in the form of a prose. Sometimes we have maps, sometimes we have to read graphs, charts, and diagrams, and we need to extract information from these different sources. How do we do it? We will talk about it in the lecture. In the lecture 4A, we will talk about practicing précis writing skills. Now, paraphrasing, summarizing, writing précis, these are very important skills for you as a writer. So we will talk about what is a précis, what should be the appropriate length of a précis. It is very much important according to the point, according to your examination. So you must attend this lecture. This will clarify all the problems and mistakes that you have in your précis writing. We will practice it with different activities. So this will be a very good, interesting, and hooking lecture that you need to follow. The very next day, we'll have this lecture 4B, where we will be responding to questions on a range of communicative purposes. Responding to questions according to the different, giving the right answer according to the question. Then we have to demonstrate attentive listening skills while working in groups and taking turns to speak with standard pronunciation. This is talking about your oral communication or oral competency. We will see that how can we become good conversationalists, good communicators, how should we respond questions, whether we are in an interview or any other platform. So responding to questions and then having good attentive listening skills. We'll play some clips, some audios, and then we will ask some questions from you at the end. So this will make you a very good communicator, because speaking is the half thing, and then listening is also the other half. Combining them together, you get your full package of oral communication, and you will master this oral competency. So this is a very practical kind of lecture that we will have. I would want you to be very much need your participation, and also you have to sit somewhere where there is no noise. You can take up a good internet connection, and then we can engage in the lesson. For lecture 4C, we have summary skills. We will use our summary skills, summarizing any kind of passage or any text, to write an objective summary. We talked about it in the reading competency SLO. Again, now after understanding it, we want to write an objective summary of the given text. It can be both for prose and poetry. The second learning outcome talks about using paraphrasing skills to paraphrase a poem. Yes, we paraphrase a poem, keeping the idea, the theme, and the essence intact, and then we paraphrase it in our own words. We will see that how we can paraphrase difficult poems that are a little bit hard to understand, containing multiple paragraphs, containing a different kind of rhyme scheme and rhythmic pattern. So this is what we are going to do. And in the last lecture over here, lecture 4D, again we are talking about writing. Write multiple paragraphs, essays or stories, multi-stanza poems or play scripts using mechanics of correct writing. According to your exam that you will have, you will be asked to write a paragraph or maybe an essay that contains multiple paragraphs by giving you the topic. Now we need to follow the conventions and the mechanics of correct writing that include all the things that you have learned previously: your grammar that contains tenses, parts of speech, different direct and indirect speech, active, passive, and all these, including your punctuation, capitalization, these will be now practically used in your writing so that you can create a very good paragraph or multiple paragraphs. However, students, let me tell you that you are not asked to write poems or stories or create stories in your exam. However, you should know as a learner of English language, as a writer, that you need to learn how do you write a poem or how can you write a very good story. We will also touch it in the lecture, but the main focus will be on writing multiple paragraphs. How the paragraph is structured, how can we structure any essay in a very in the perfect way. And lastly, we have these two learning outcomes that talk about the same thing: précis writing. We will develop précis writing skills and write précis effectively. So this will be very interesting. Précis writing is very much important for you in your competitive exams, in your different standard exams, and also in your final exam as well. So we will see that how we can read anything and then we can write a précis. We will talk about the length of the précis, the words, and how do we write a very good one that is free of any kind of problem. Thank you, students. I hope that all the learning outcomes are very much clear to you. We have a lot of things coming our way, so be prepared. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next video lesson with lecture number 1. Take care of yourselves and Allah Hafiz.